Today I'm going to be using 2 sheets of pattern paper, one of my no scrap sketch sets to make 4 cute cards for Cubs. Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. Today I'm using my sketch set number 9 and the Wishing You Happiness pad from the Stamps of Life, and we're going to create some cute little cards that are going to be going to the Cards for Cubs organization. I had found some turtle embellishments in my stash that I decided I wanted to use up, so I am going to choose 2 sheets of the pattern paper. I'm going to go with this turtle pattern. It's just got like rows of turtles, and then I'm going to choose, like, this is kind of a busy pattern, very bold, and I'm going to kind of look for something a little smaller pattern to kind of offset that. So I'm just going with these like multicolored polka dots. My sketch sets are intended to help you take a certain amount of patterned papers, and I give you card sketches and a cutting guide to help you take those pattern papers and turn them into a set number of cards with no scraps left over. This is sketch set number 9 that I'm using, and I will have it linked in the description box below for you. It is totally free to download, so you can go check that out. And if you are working on cards for donation and trying to use up your stash, these are a great way to help you do that. And so I will have a link to my sketches page down there as well, and you can go, if you don't already have my other sketches, you can pull those, download those as well, and use them to help you on your card making journey. So I did mention that I was making these cards for Cards for Cubs. Cards for Cubs is a nonprofit organization that's sponsored by Barely Art Glue, and it focuses on sending handmade cards to kids in the foster care system. The kids in foster care, tend to get shuffled around. They may feel forgotten. They may feel unloved, kind of alone. So the point of this organization is to let them know they're not alone. There are people that are rooting for them and thinking of them, and they're doing this through sending handmade cards. And it's just, they're looking for positive, uplifting encouragement cards or birthday cards. And what they do is Cards for Cubs will collect all of these cards coming up here in March and then distribute them out to the kids in the foster care system throughout the year. So I will have Cards for Cubs linked in the description box below as well. You can check out more about their mission and how they started this. It's been going for 4 years, I think, and each year it's grown in number of the cards that they've collected. So right now they're kind of in the getting the word out and the preparation phase. So they are seeking handmade, like, card makers, and just asking for you to donate their cards. So I will also link directly to their guidelines. They don't have a ton of guidelines that you have to follow. Basically, the cards have to be handmade. You have to pair them with envelopes, and they need to be either encouragement, like positive encouragement, or birthday themed. They can be boy or girl, gender neutral, whatever. The big thing is that they are handmade, like positive cards. So I'll link that in the description box for you as well. I know as card makers, we all make a lot of these cards, and it's a good way to use those cards. So I just wanted to highlight Barely Art Glue. This is the mini glue, and the Barely Art Glue is my go-to wet glue. So when you order the mini, it comes with the glue bottle, and then you get some tops different tops that you can put on, and a pin that will kind of keep your glue closed. So this is like the basic top, kind of the base. And then there are 3 different ends or points that you can put on. So this green one will give you more of a wider flow of glue. And then this longer black one is kind of a fine tip. And then this one with the silver, the metal end, is more of an ultra fine tip, and that is kind of the one I use. You just push it down into that top base and twist it, and it will lock in. And then they do give you a needle that will kind of keep the end of the glue closed, and it kind of keeps it from drying up there at the tip and getting clogged. So I will have the glue linked in the description box below as well. Like I said, it is my go-to wet glue. It can be shipped at any time throughout the year. It doesn't, freeze, doesn't melt, anything like that. So that's another handy thing. But I am at this point, working on the fun point of assembling my cards. Like I said, my No Scrap sketch sets do have a cutting guide for you. I cut down both of my pattern sheets the same way. And then I am working on assembling. There are 3 different sketches with this particular sketch set. And so right now I am working on sketch A, and it makes 2 cards. And so I have one that is kind of like the turtle background, and then the other one is going to be the polka dot. And what I did, it was flip to the B side of my papers to give me those plaid pieces. And that was just so I could have some additional contrast for these. And I'm just brought in some cardstock from my stash to create for these. And my sketch set does not give you cutting guides for cardstock. So if you use cardstock for matting, you can do that if you choose, but you may have scraps from that. I can only guarantee you the no scraps from the pattern paper. But there are ways that you could use up some of your cardstock scraps as well when in making these cards. Use them to, for additional matting, add dimension behind your pieces, etc. So I'm using the Bold Inspiration stamp set, which is also from the Stamps of Life. It's just a great kind of positive, uplifting message stamp set, and I'm going to be using the one that says "You are amazing" for this particular sketch. And I'm going to use my stamping platform, my Misty, to stamp it twice because I'm kind of working on both of these cards for sketch A at the same time. Like I said, right now Cards for Cubs is kind of working on the planning phase. So there is a form that you can fill out to kind of pledge a certain number of cards that you would like to donate. And then in March is the time to actually send those cards. And so whenever it comes time to send, you will go ahead and kind of update the quantities that you have of the cards. And then there's a form that you will print off to send with your cards so that they can link those cards to you. And then it kind of just helps them keep a tally too of how many cards that they've collected each year. Like I said, since they've been doing it, it's kind of grown in number of cards collected each year. So it's really good to see that the word is spreading. And I think I've participated since it started. So it's just been kind of a fun way to use some of the cards that I make. Like this time of year, I tend to try and focus specifically on the Cards for Cubs. I do some that's for boys. Like these are kind of geared more for boys. I just worked on a collection that was unicorn, so it was probably more for girls. So I'm just trying to kind of balance that out a little bit. And today I'll be doing a mix of kind of just encouragement sentiments and birthday. So I have my sentiment stamped there, and I did decide I wanted to mat it, and I'm going to mat them on the same color as the card mat that I use. So one's going to be with the green, and then one is going to be with the blue. And my sketch sets are kind of like a basic layout, and that is intended so that if you're a beginner card maker, it's something that you can easily do. And if you are an advanced card maker and you want to add more, you can just use this as a jumping off point and then embellish as much as you wish. I decided I wanted to add a little bit of fun to these instead of making them plain rectangles. So I just brought out my corner rounder, and I'm going to be rounding opposite corners on the rectangles on both the sentiment and the matting piece. So it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a fun look instead of a basic rectangle. So I will glue those down, and then I am going to be pulling in my sketch had actually called for an embellishment kind of at the top there where I'm putting the sentiment, and then a sentiment strip that goes down below. So I'm kind of going to be doing it a little bit backwards with this particular card. I'm putting my sentiment there at the top, since these are like large, bold, bright sentiments. And then I'm going to bring in a scrap. The Stamps of Life pads are actually like 6.5 inches tall by 6 inches wide. So I did have a little bit, I had about a 1/2 inch strip that I had cut off at the top. And so I'm going to be using a couple of these pieces as that strip at the bottom of the card. And I'm going to use that kind of as a shelf or landing place for these little turtle stickers that I'm going to be adding. And I know these stickers have been in my stash for a really long time. I'm adding glue to make sure they're actually going to stick. I don't know where they came from or who they're by. The packaging is long gone. And I just wanted to try and use some of these up, since the turtles kind of coordinated with turtles in the pad. So I'm going to be doing the same thing on this one. And then there are some bees that are on those sticker sheets as well. And so I decided to bring in a couple of the bees on each card to add a little bit of extra color down there at the bottom and a little bit extra embellishment so the turtle didn't look so lonely. And I had put him off to the left side because he was looking to the right, facing to the right. And so I wanted to kind of balance him out a little bit. So I will add bees to both. I thought about adding a flower up there at the top and then decided that, nah, I'm good. And even though it was a blue flower, this card, in my head, is geared towards boys, so I didn't want to bring in, a floral element. And then I had the other half of that 1/2 inch strip from the top of the paper. I'm going to bring that in and add that to the inside of the cards just to add a little bit of extra, just a little something fun on the inside. So my first sketch will be done, and we're going to move on to sketch B, which makes one card, and it uses up a bunch of these strips. So you can do these strips in any order that you want. You can kind of skew them so that they're not in a perfect line. You can have them kind of at angles. You can make it more haphazard. You can do however you want to do this. I'm just going to kind of keep the clean line look and line these up the best I can. I did alternate the patterns. My paper is double-sided, so technically I could switch it to the back side and use the B sides as well if I wanted to bring in some additional patterns. But I just decided, especially since the back side of that one is a green plaid, it's not going to stand out very well on my green cardstock. So I just decided to go ahead and use the A sides and then work it, trying to get kind of some even spacing going. And if this part is hard for you, trying to line them up and keep them evenly spaced, you could use a T-square ruler here to help you keep them all in, make sure you're getting them all in a straight line. Or like I said, you could kind of alternate, one strip would be down a little further, the next one might come up, and then the next one goes down. So it's kind of like in a mountain valley kind of pattern. Or like I said, you could kind of angle them so that they overlap each other. And now that those strips are on, I'm going to add this to my card base. And these are all A2 cards. This sketch set does make A2 cards. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So all of my card bases are A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So then I had this little turtle square, and it's 3D, and it has little googly eyes. And so I decided this would be a good one to use him on. And then it's a birthday sentiment that was already pre-stamped from my stash. Actually, I think it's one that I had created and printed out, so it's not even from a stamp set that I could tell you. but it's just happy birthday. And so I'm going to add this kind of off to the right. And then we'll glue down my square embellishment there on the left. And I had just had a cat kind of walk across in one of the breaks that was off camera. And so I keep finding cat hair everywhere. So I apologize. But kind of in our house, cat hair don't care at this point because I can't necessarily keep the hair from getting everywhere. Moving on to sketch C, and this one uses those strips in a little bit different way. This time we have some horizontal strips as well as some vertical strips. So the wider strips are, the 4 wider strips are the horizontal, and then the 2 thinner strips are the vertical ones. So again, I'm just kind of trying to dry fit these before I glue things down, get an idea of spacing, and then I'm going to work on gluing my 2 vertical end pieces, or I'll glue one of those down and then add my like outermost horizontal strips so that I can get an idea of, or I can make sure that my vertical strip that's going on the opposite side will be in line, you know, at the top and the bottom. This is kind of how I tend to put this one together. It just helps me kind of make sure that the spacing all the way around is pretty even. So now I will come and do the second vertical strip, and then we'll glue down those 2 middle horizontal strips. And now I know that spacing wise, I'm just trying to find equal spacing in between those 2 outer ones. And then for this sketch, I'm going to be using another sentiment from the Bold Inspiration stamp set. And this time the sentiment says sending happy thoughts. And like this stamp set is an awesome one for Cards for Cubs. So I will link that and the pad in the description box below for you. I was really excited when I found this one because it's, you know, I like that they're large, and so they can act as kind of an embellishment on the card as well because it's such a large sentiment. And then, you know, they're all like kind of positive, encouraging sentiments that just work great for these. So I'm using my Misty stamp positioner again. And I do this because these sentiments are so large. I want to make sure that I get a nice clear stamped image. And I went and die cut a circle out of some of the scrap cardstock that I had, and I'm going to use that as a kind of matte or background layer for my sentiment. And I'm going to do a little bit of a bubble cut around the sentiment, which just means I'm doing kind of a loose rounded cut around the sentiment. I'm not going right up against it. I'm leaving a little bit of a border all the way around. And then that should kind of just allows me to center it inside that circle. So then once I glue both of these down, our 4th card will be done. And again, you can continue to add embellishments to these if you have them. So then for the inside of these last 2 cards, I am going to use some of the scrap cardstock that I had. So again, if you bring in cardstock for your matting layers like I did, this is another way to use up some of the scraps that you might have, is to add them to the insides of the cards. So I'm just going to add the blue scrap to the inside of the blue matte card and the green scrap to the inside of the green matte card. And then these cards, all 4 of my cards will be done. So again, please be sure to check out the links in the description box below if Cards for Cubs is something you're interested in. Thank you so much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.